just go into a community and take pictures. I like to sort of be a part of the community, and being a part of community means picking up a shovel or
Welcome to Catamoments with me, Molly Stone, Associate Director of Live Performance at Catamount Arts. I'm coming to you from my home in Bradford, Vermont, and behind me is my dear cat, Bruce. And today's episode is special for a couple of reasons. Number one, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has been following these Catamoments. This was an idea, and it's turned into a weekly show that features folks from Vermont, the Northeast Kingdom, and beyond, where we can focus on an individual and their art and really dive in. And this past episode was no exception. This week, I was joined by Dona and McAdams and John Killacky. And Dona and McAdams' work is up in the art gallery at Catamount Arts. And the exhibit, Performative Acts, was curated by John Killacky. And I had a chance to sit down and talk to both of them via Zoom interview about her work. And her work is astonishing. And to read you a quote that just resonates deeply from Matthew Reimer and Leighton Brown, the creators of queerhistory.com, they wrote, "Cutting her teeth in Harvey Milk's Castro as women and queer people demanded more, perfecting her eye in the East Village as a generation fought an epidemic, lending a hand to the fight against injustice and erasure wherever she lands. Dona is an activist in the truest sense of the word." And here are some examples of Dona's work. Before we get to my interview with Dona and John, I wanted to remind you that you can still buy your raffle tickets for our summer solstice raffle. And the prize will be drawn on July 1st, which will coincide, coincidentally, with a concert, a live streamed concert from our friends of the Kingdom All-Stars. Also, during the month of May, you can round up for the arts at White's Market. So head on over to White's Market and purchase your groceries. Ask to round up for the arts, and your change will go to the Art Center. So now here's the interview that I had with Dona and John. Good morning, John and Dona. Thank you for joining me.
Morning.
nice to be here.
So one thing I'd like to ask all the folks that I interview is, how are things going in your world? John, I'll put it to you first, and then Dona.
Well, currently I'm serving in the legislature. I'm a state representative in the House, and we're doing everything virtually. And it's very complicated to vote on bills when there's 150 people in the House, and we're all on Zoom calls. And some people are technically less proficient than others. So it's very slow moving and frustrating right now to try to serve the people of Vermont.
Yeah, I've been in the State House, so jamming into those little committee rooms and things are just not an option. So Zoom it is. Dona, how is it going in your world?
Well, right now is the time that my goats freshen. So I had 5 girls have kids, and so I'm milking twice a day, and I'm rearing little baby goats. So for me, it's just, I would be working this way anyway. Mm-hmm. And I'm in my studio, which is nearby, right across from the barn. So I'm actually okay in terms of what's happening around us. I'm really fortunate that I have everything I need, and my time is spent now working with my animals.
Yeah, I was always sort of jealous of farmers during this time. You know, things just go on. You know, that you can't stop milking your cows or your goats. So I'm happy to hear that on your end. One thing that did change drastically was the closing of the Catamount Arts Center, which means that the gallery has been closed since March 14th. And currently it is your exhibit that is up in the gallery. And so I wanted to direct our folks to the virtual online gallery to see that exhibit. But I would love to hear from you how this exhibit came to life. And I understand that, John, you curated the series. So can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Well, I've known Donna and McAdams for 40 years. Our paths first crossed in the 80s in New York, where she was a house photographer at PS 122. And then in the 90s, I was in Minneapolis. She was still in New York. And the AIDS pandemic hit. And in both of these situations, Donna was documenting people we knew, artists we loved, friends, and she became very important in what was called the culture wars, where artists were deemed unsuitable by the federal government and they wanted to take money back. And Donna had photographed all these artists and I presented them. So we had a bond that was pretty deep at that point. And then I moved to Vermont in 2010 to run the Flynn Center, and Donna and Brad had already moved to Vermont some decades before that. And she can tell that story. But then we reconnected, and I saw that she is raising goats now, and I have a little Shetland pony. So it's like our aesthetics, and then our animals. It just became. It's been such an honor to work on this exhibition of an artist that I really admire so much, and that she's world renowned. She's in museums and libraries all over the world, very well known in New York, and I felt like Vermont didn't know who she was. So we had one of the greatest artists in Vermont who's unknown. So it gave me an opportunity to work with her. And then the show opened in Brattleboro last year, went to Castleton in Rutland. It's currently up in St. Johnsbury. Next month it moves to Helen Day Art Center. So it's like a 2-year tour presenting Donna's work to Vermont, and it just thrills me. So I appreciate this opportunity with Catamount Arts.
And we appreciate it as well. And Donna, I walked into the gallery because I work up there at the Catamount Arts Center, and I saw your work, and I had not heard of you and your work before, and I was attracted to it instantly. And it is an aesthetic that, it captures people's eyes, and you've got people and you've got words. I was not familiar with the term, what is it, agitprop? So can you talk to me about what that means to you and your vision of your own work?
Well, you could have John explain that word to you, but because he would do a better job. He wrote it in his wonderful introduction to the catalog. But in terms of my work, to be able to have it travel around my home state is such a great honor, and it looks really beautiful up at Catamount, and the virtual tour is really wonderful too. So in terms of my work, I've been practicing social documentary since I started taking pictures in 74, and my work as an activist started soon after, first with the anti-nuclear movement, women's choice, and then when John and I connected around HIV/AIDS GRID in the mid-'80s, early '90s, I was really committed to working to promote awareness for people living with AIDS so that they would be able to have the treatment that they needed, which included many protests with ACT UP. So, and my work up here is pretty much in the same sort of vein. I like to work in community, and I like to work with labor. I don't want to just go into a community and take pictures. I like to sort of be a part of the community, and being a part of community means picking up a shovel or picking up a racehorse by the lead shank, or helping somebody comb a cashmere goat. I like to work first, and then I like to take photographs. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
I think that's really important, and it really distinguishes Donna's aesthetics, because she does not work as a detached journalist. She has what I call embedded empathy with the different communities she works in. So when she's documenting work, she's in the middle of these protests. She's not on the outside of them. She is an activist with them. She also spent 14 years in Coney Island and working with people with schizophrenia, I think. And
Yeah.
why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because that's beautiful work in this show.
Well, I mean, I have no objection. I think that photojournalists are really important. I mean, photojournalism stopped the Vietnam War. It's an incredible and valuable way to make work, but it's not what I like to do. And so, in regards to the Garden of Eden, which is what I call the Coney Island work, I was asked to be one of the artists in the 1984 to share art, photography with people who had been institutionalized in facilities and then released back into communities, and most of them were living in adult supportive housing, group homes. And so my job was to teach photography, and so I went out to Coney Island where I spent 14 years. And at first, people, they didn't really understand. I mean, I was doing visual art too, so there was drawing and there was materials on the table, and I would take pictures and bring them back, and they loved having their pictures taken and they loved looking at the pictures. But one day, one of my residents, consumers, patients, the name changed over the amount of time that I worked there in terms of how you would describe who you were working with. But the artists in my group, which is what I like to call them, Jane Smith picked up a colored pencil and started drawing on one of my photographs, and then I realized, and then somebody else did, and somebody else, and this and that and that, and then I realized I needed to get a surface on my photographic paper that will allow for crayon, oil pastel, colored pencil, everything but watercolor. That never really worked. So that's how the whole Garden of Eden project started. It was one person who just picked up a pencil. And I would just go take pictures, whatever they wanted, bring them back, make multiple copies, bring all the pictures, put them on the table. They would take them, they would color themselves. There were certain people who were really good, and they were the ones who were, Jane Smith, Susan Wilson, two women in particular, were very good at it. So they would be like, people would like for them to do their renderings, their portraits. And so I probably produced, I don't know, thousands of these hand-colored photographs, and I have about 100 because they belong to the people in the workshop. They belong to the workshop, the people who ran the workshop, and also the group that I work for, hospital audiences. The work went back to them to keep in their archive. So I have about 100 of them. And it stopped when the last member of my original workshop of participants left. So I decided as long as the original group of people that I was working with were with me, I would stay there. But then when the last one stopped coming, I decided that my work was done. So in 1998.
These were special to add to this because Donna shoots in black and white with her Leica camera, and she's not a digital artist. She really works sort of in a traditional way of photography. She also prints her own work, but there it is. It was important to add this component, this embedded empathy thing. The same thing happened. She goes to Saratoga Racetrack every week when they're in session and photographs, but she's more interested in the backstage and so she got certified as a hot walker, so she could actually be part of the community. So again, she wasn't distanced, and her equine photographs that are in your show are so exquisite because you're so up close, not only to the animals, but to the workers that are unseen, to the community that goes to Saratoga Racetrack. So again, Donna's taking those outsiders in our community that we don't see, and she's really embedded with them, showing their realities in a beautiful way.
Well, the only way a backstretch worker can get in a photograph and actually is if they win a race and they can be in a win photo. And a lot of people come to the track, to the backside, the front side, and photograph people, and people never get to see these photographs. And so I decided that I would like to have these grooms, hot walkers, a trainer, the kitchen staff, a guy who drove the horse ambulance, an opportunity to tell their own stories. And so in 2010, I started to work with them, and we had an exhibition at the Racing Museum, and it was the first time that all these folks were actually in the Hall of Fame, the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. So they were really pleased about that. And then that show came to John at the Flynn. He picked that show up. So that was the first time we had really seen each other in a very, very long time, which was wonderful. I came, he installed the show, and then we went to meet his pony, which was great.
She also has Vermonters in our show at Catamount Arts. When Christine Hallquist was running for governor, Dona wanted to photograph her, and so she just jumped in the Pride Parade in Burlington on the street. And the street activist Dona is, she's there in the middle of it, and she got a great photograph of her. And then Lou and Bill, I think, are two of my favorite photographs. Dona, why don't you talk about those? Because those are
the controversy over the Green Mountain oxen, Bill and Lou and Bill, when Lou hurt his foot and they were going to put them down, I decided I wanted to go up to meet the two oxen, and I specifically wanted to create a diptych where I had one half of Bill and one half of Lou, and together they would form how they would be in their yoke, ye and ha, that. So I went up and spent about, a couple of hours, and the day I happened to go up was the day that PETA decided that they were going to protest in front of the school, because the school was planning on using one of the oxen, Lou, I think it's Lou, I'm pretty sure it's Lou, they were going to butcher him and serve him in the cafeteria, which is their mission. They did when they were operating sustainable agriculture, and instead of getting their meat from outside, they thought it would be best, they would serve their mission, and they could actually pay homage to Lou by serving him. But they weren't able to have any place around do that, so they actually had to put him down and put him in the ground. So, and then Bill shortly after, because they're twins and they grow up together and they're always together. And usually if one goes, the other one will either go on its own or will be, go. So then Bill left too. But it was amazing to just be around these two. I mean, I love oxen. I won't deny. I go to the Freiburg Fair in Maine all the time so I can see oxen. And also Tunbridge has a beautiful fair where there's oxen. So, and then Tunbridge also has a beer hall, which is kind of amazing. Our little state of Vermont. So that's what happened with the Bill and Lou Green Mountain College oxen story. On the cover of above the front on the drums. Pardon?
I remember that controversy, and it's so interesting to hear your side of it, and just the way you embed into these social issues is just astonishing.
And of course, she opened the fence and walked in the pasture with these animals. Mm-hmm. So she's up close, It's like, oh, but that's what makes them so intimate. There's no detachment.
Oxen are so gentle. They're like elephants. Elephants can not be gentle, but oxen are, they're great. They're just big, wonderful animals. They're not scary. A 2-year-old thoroughbred is scary.
Yes.
That's scary.
That's different.
And the last thing I think is you get to see in the exhibition Dona's goats that she and her husband Brad Kessel raised. So there's a great picture of the goats and her husband, and then there's a fantastic, joyful picture of is it nuns from Sisters of St. Mary Convent, Dona? Is that right? Yeah. Playing with the goats in the field. And the nuns are in the full habit, and they're skipping, and the goats are there, and it's just like, wow, it's incredible.
I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with St. Mary's on the Hill for 6 years, or maybe even 7 years now. So initially I went as to help and wanted to take photographs, and the community eventually decided that it would be okay for me to do that. So I've been working with mostly Sister Mary Elizabeth over there, and I help with their cashmere goats by combing their cashmere goats and helping them show when they go to various fairs, Tunbridge, or they also go to the Rhinebeck Fiber Festival. So I'm a part of that community too, and grateful for that opportunity, because they're amazing women. Nuns are incredible. Make no mistake. They're radicals.
Yeah. So
in a good way.
In a good way. So on that note, I want to wrap this up with just some things I've noticed. First of all, in this new world of social distancing, it seems to go completely against how you operate in the world. And I think that this gallery showing couldn't have come at a better time. And the explanation of the work couldn't come at a better time, because it does expose those folks who are often unseen. And those folks who are unseen are the ones who are keeping our society progressing. And without hearing from you, and I'm speaking personally from me, without hearing from you, it might be hard for folks to understand what they're seeing. And there is such a depth to those photos, even now, especially with the schizophrenic patients that you worked with who colored over the photographs. The depth of community in your work needs to be shared. And I'm so glad that we're doing that here today, and through Catamount Arts and through everywhere else that your exhibit is going to go. So I wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today. And I think that this is going to be so successful. I hope that for you all.
Well, it has so far.
Good. And John, do you have any thoughts on that? On the future of the exhibit?
This has been a dream project for me to honor someone I've known and admired for 40 years. And it's a 2-year journey that we're on. And we hope to make a short film about it next summer. And so it's just to be able to go into Donna's archives and revisit this body of work, and to kind of jointly select the work with her was just a deep privilege. So I'm very grateful.
And to be in John's hands is incredible, because we share so much history together.
And to be part of the history, and of the history that you both are making right now, myself and Catamount Arts is very thankful for that as well. So I wanted to say thank you for joining me. And folks can go to our virtual online gallery, and they can see your work there by going to catamountarts.org. So take care, both of you. Thank you so much. Stay well. And
thank you, Molly.
We'll talk again.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Donna. Bye, Molly.
Bye, Donna.
Bye-bye.
Many thanks to Donna and John for joining me. Our conversation reinforced my belief that art and creativity serves to deepen the conversation when it comes to social and cultural norms. And until next time on Catamoments, stay well, and we'll see you soon.
Catamount Arts would like to thank the sponsors for their continued support.
Almost there, Bruce. Okay. No, too many words, not enough content.